Hello everybody, welcome to week 2 of the BRC and Bee Legends series. We're starting off with Lime Rock for the 20-minute road course portion, and then shortly after we'll be heading on over to Thompson Speedway for the oval. Heading into this event, we have a tie up front, Kyle Cleveland and Chris Essery, both 49 points apiece. David Robledo in third with 45, Kyle Carpenter 43 points, ranking 4th overall, and Orndorff closing out the top 5 with 41. And here's your starting grid, once again earning their second Potato Baton Pole Award of the season. Andrew Ewing with a 101.7, the only one to run under 102 in qualifying. Joining him on the front row is Chris Essery, who earned a win on the oval last week. Leading the second row is Nick Gould, making their first BRC start of the season, along with Mitchell Calvin as well. Jonathan Orndorff qualifying 5th in the third row, Robert Bearder 6th, Kyle Cleveland and Clayton Cyrus making up the next row, and then last overall in the qualifying, David Robledo. Cleveland has a win in the road course from last week, and Robledo also showed a lot of pace there, so going to be interesting to see if they can climb through the field here in this 20-minute race at Lime Rock. And without further ado, let's get to the green lights, and we're ready to go. They are off and racing 20 minutes here at Lime Rock. Andrew Ewing heads towards turn 1, hoping to have their fates changed after earning themselves a nice position here out front with the pole, Essery and Chase. And right behind, Nick Gould, again, making their first start of the season in that purple number 14. So far, it looks like smooth sailing. Kyle Cleveland's made some nice moves back there in that blue number 24, and the 15's getting a little loose, and they come back into the 31. Big implications, and a flip from Essery as well. Ewing trying to get that car turned around. And heartbreak once again as both leaders taken out early. I mean, they're going to have some major damage to that car. We'll see how drivable that is for Essery. But out front now is Nick Gould, and they just had a gift landed in their lap, and they're able to pull away a little bit as well. Calvin having a great start in that 78, their first race of the season, running P2. Robledo in the pink number 25, top 3. There's Orndorff trying to hold off Kyle Cleveland, who had a major run. Again, we talked about them in the pre-race. A little bit of an off qualifying, not sure. They didn't have a qualifying time, so I'm not sure if it was because they had an incident arise, but they started off at the back of the field. Again, the 78 trying to hold off the 25 at the moment as they both try to chase down Nick Gould out front. And the 78 has some issues. They get 2 tires into the grass, and Robledo is going to take full advantage there and moves up to P2. Robledo smokes the tires at that point. Here comes Kyle Cleveland as well. There's the number 4 car. Orndorff has fallen back to 6th. Cyrus, then Ewing, and then Essery. Looks like they still have some damage, and despite flipping over, appear to be out there. I don't believe they pit. No, they have not. So they haven't taken that fast repair. I mean, with a 20-minute race, going into the pits to take that fast repair, even if it's just instant, is going to cost you so much time. But you have to wonder over the course of it if they can get that fix and hang in there, if they make up some spots at the very end when others make mistakes. But this is the back of the field, 5th on back. Orndorff moves back past the 4 after they get a little loose entering the turn. Now Ewing trying to fight back after that rough start as well, working on the 4 car for 6th place. It looks like they make the move. Cyrus not far behind of this group as well. Let's jump back up to Kyle Cleveland, who had a major start, moved up a bunch of positions and see themselves in 4th place. They definitely have some pace. They won the first road race of the season, and they're currently tied for 1st in the standings heading into today, with Chris Essery both getting wins in week 1. If you're joining us for the first time, this is the BRC Bee Racing Championships, and this is the Bee Legends series. Of course, the Legend cars with their buzzing motorcycle engines, the main focus of the series, the premier series of the league. We run 2 races a night on Tuesdays through the rest of the summer through August. For the most part, it'll be a road course in the start the first session, followed by a short, about 20-25 minute oval event as well. And then there's also a special dirt week sometime in August coming up. 78 falling back to the 24 now as Kyle Cleveland, one of the points leaders, eyeing them up, trying to make a move soon. We have a lot going on back here. Ewing has made their way back into 5th, Orendorf back to 6th. The 4 car still trying to hold off Clayton Cyrus in that 8th position in the 05. And the 31, given that they had a massive, massive crash and have to be dealing with some damage and possibly some issues with the steering, has caught or almost caught the back end of the field. Looks like the 78 has fallen to the 24. Apologies for missing that on the broadcast. 24 now up to P3 after, I can't remember where they started. Maybe P7? So they made their way safely through that big wreck at the start of the race. And definitely have some pace here. Robledo has the fastest lap in this fastest lap of the race so far, 101.8. The only one close to that is Kyle Cleveland with a 101.892. Oh, scratch that as Nick Gould and Robledo quickly trade the fast laps. So Robledo now in the 101.7 range, Gould also in the 101.7. Cleveland with a best lap of a 102. So Gould and Robledo picking up the pace. I think that 14 car sees the 25 in its mirror starting to creep up a little bit. We're just under 7 minutes into this 20-minute race. And we could have a fight for the lead on our hands before too long. You can see the field otherwise pretty spread out around the course. You can really get a look at how much these cars are slotted around. They are not as easy to drive. Just don't let their size fool you. You can definitely have a lot of fun racing these things, especially around these road courses. So Andrew Ewing, that's a story in itself. Their second pole of the season, and both times they've hit that pole award. They've had major issues with a wreck during the race. It came a little later on in that Charlotte road course. They led a good amount of laps and then unfortunately had a spin out in one of the turns heading onto the infield that cost them that race. Eventually a DNF due to some internet engine troubles. Now running 5th, trying to make up for that early mistake. Essery now has caught the back of the field. He's moved past Bearder and Cyrus to move up to P7. Looks like the 4 car having some trouble going off track. They're having their hands full. Cyrus now licking their chops, ready for another pass. And we jump back with the leader, Nick Gould, heading on to their 8th lap here. Robledo, Cleveland also over the start-finish line. So Gould missing out on week number 1. That's fine, though. This league does have 2 drop races in the overall championships. And then we also crown in a road and oval champion as well, and each of those has 1 drop week. So they won't have the advantage of having their worst race in particular get thrown out with that drop week. But missing the opening weekend isn't going to keep them out of a potential championship should they race well enough. So Gould and Robledo still running in the 101s. A little faster than the 24, but they are not leaving the 24 behind by any means. In fact, it looks like Kyle Cleveland may be getting a little faster and faster as they go here. But those top 2 are just on another pace. And in fact, we'll just say the top 3 are definitely, leaving the field behind a bit here. Mitchell Calvin now in that 78 car may be dealing with Andrew Ewing before too long. Ewing, I mean, what a recovery. The fact that they were I don't know what kind of damage. Oh, the 78's off track. Just as they went past the camera, the 78 lost it, and they tried to get on the track as fast as possible to avoid being passed. That ended up costing them more in the long run, having to hit that wall. Now they have some damage to deal with. And just like that, Ewing is back in 4th place after going all the way to the back of the field and driving a damaged race car, still with some pace. So I want to see now how much the 78 is dealing with. These cars will get some steering damage if you hit the walls a particular way, and so far it doesn't seem like that's been too much of an issue. Or excuse me, it was Ewing that crashed into the 31. The 31 is the one that was toppled over their head. My apologies, I misspoke. I almost forgot the sequence there at the start of the race. You can definitely see the damage that's going on with the 31 here. But still, they have worked their way back up the 6th position in that 31 car. I don't think it should be too much of an issue. Essery already having a win on the season and some great finishes so far. And tied in the points with Kyle Cleveland at the moment. Though that might change after this race. Kyle Cleveland running P3. Orndorff now trying to recover. They've been a little faster the last few laps, it seems. Although last lap they had a little bit of an issue. The 106 compared to their best of a 103. Definitely must have had some sort of problem and fell off. But for the most part, having some good pace. Here's the pass for 8th, it looks like. The 4 car I've been watching on that map has been having some issues. The driver with their hands full. They might need to practice some more. As Cyrus trying to get this pass around this long bend. And clean as can be, the 05 moves up to P8. Back to the leaders. Nick Gould out front. And don't look now, but just under a second and a half away is Robledo in that 25 car. We're well over midway, 12:24 into the 20-minute race. And at this point, with the leaders pushing the way they are, you have to imagine those tires getting a little slippery. Possibly pushing a little bit more in the turns, getting a little tougher to handle. Throwing it around here, especially at this choke point as they head on to the backstretch area. So Gould had some pace. Another one of the drivers coming over from the OCRP iRacing League, which when that eventually returns will be on Thursdays. So keep an eye out for that as well. And you can see the back end of the field in their front window heading onto this long Lime Rock front stretch. The 14 might be feeling some pressure now. Still a second and a half back at that 25 of Robledo. Kyle Cleveland also working their way closer and closer, just about a 5.5 second gap back to them. The last 5 laps average, Robledo with the fastest average there, so they are making their way towards that 14. Excuse me, getting tongue-tied here. All these numbers were dropping. I'm also wondering if I see damage on the front of that 14 for some reason. I'm not sure if they... No, those are just reflection. I didn't think they got caught up in that wreck, which we'll have to take a replay look back again later on. A lot of these cars very lucky not to get caught up in that wreck. In fact, that could have been very bad. It could have taken the whole field. Everybody was still pretty bunched up from the grid. We're lucky more cars were not involved. Well, a little bit of looseness coming out of turn number 1 for the 14 as they make their way towards the back portion of the circuit. And if Robledo does not get to the 14 by the time they reach this back end of the field, you have to wonder if the lap traffic's going to come into play in that regard. Here's the in-car for the number 25, David Robledo. Currently third overall in the standings heading into this race. They started last on the grid, P9, have worked their way up to second overall after a major first lap run, somehow not only making up spots, but avoiding all of the chaos that ensued right in front of them. And you can see how much these cars are sliding around. Like when you're on the elite side of the field, you are whipping these things around. Those back tires are really the things you're trying to save because they're just around these bends. Oh, look at that tire hop by the 14. They lose it over the curbing. Oh my goodness. And just like that, we have a new leader. Robledo out front, the 25. Nick Gould back to second. The 25 had just been waiting and waiting for that, something like that. They've been applying the pressure for multiple laps now. Ran the fastest lap of the race that last lap. And for Cleveland, they were hoping to see a little bit more of a battle to slow these two down. They were hoping they were going to go at it for a little while, but that was about as quick of a pass as possible. Thanks to the 14 getting hung up on one of the turtles. Oh, they are having some trouble whipping this thing around. Now the question is going to be if the lap traffic gives the lead back to the 14 once the 25 reaches them. Andrew Yoon still in fourth. Essery now in fifth. Mitchell Calvin back to sixth position. And the 4 car going to pull over to the side like a good lap car and let these two leaders battle out amongst themselves, not be part of the story. Onto the front stretch they go. Robledo, this is, it was confirmed after our last broadcast, their first ever league racing. And they've had a great start in the BRC. Imagine if they got their first ever iRacing win here. How special that would be in their third league race. But don't look now. Let's not get too ahead of ourselves. We're 17:59, about 2 minutes away from the finish. And the 14 is starting to get to the back bumper of the 25. They got a little loose through that section of the track, but the 14 is absolutely driving the tires off this thing, trying to make their way back into contention for this win. Oh, they went a little wide through that chicane area. And they definitely lost some time there. I mean, they were getting very close to the 25, and now Robledo starting to pull away. In fact, this may have opened the door up a little bit for Kyle Cleveland and that blue 24, who has just been quietly making their way towards the leaders. I mean, the gap for Cleveland back to P1 when Gould was in the lead was 5.5 seconds. It's now 3.1 back to Robledo, so don't count them out. I know we're getting towards about a minute to go, but it is far from over. And Clayton Cyrus in the 05. Now a lap down, trying to stay out of the way of the leaders as well. As Robledo making their way through that tricky chicane that gave the 14 so much trouble earlier. Cleveland again, looking strong. Now just over a second back from Gould. Oh my goodness, the 14 almost went heads. Oh wow, I don't even know what happened there. They almost went straight into the inside barrier. Major damage for that 14 purple machine. They're missing some panels, and that is going to knock them out from contention for the win for sure. We'll have to see if they can hold on to a P3 position. In the meantime, now that that's happened, take a look at the 24. Do they have enough time to make this up on the 25 of Robledo? 4 seconds back. I think that crash actually slowed down Cleveland just a bit. Rightfully so. I mean, you want to try to avoid it. That was pretty much right in front of the 24 as well. Could have accidentally caught them up. It looks like... Not sure what happened there. The 05 taking that outside route just to let the leader by, it looks like. And Robledo going to take the final turn, heading towards their first ever iRacing win. Their first win in the BRC, of course, as well. And the 25 is on the board. Going to be a major, major deal in the points here. Championship implications possibly for a few drivers, but Ewing and Essery doing a good job recovering as well. Looks like Kyle Cleveland's going to finish second. Great run by them. And again, Robledo starting last on the grid ends up winning the race. Andrew Ewing ends up taking P3. They work their way back to a podium after that unfortunate spin out that took out Essery on the first lap. Gould's going to hold on for 4th place overall. There's Essery, who's worked their way back up into a top 5 finish. Mitchell Calvin with that front end damage as well, limping their car to a 6th place finish. This is some paneling on that right rear and major damage on the right front. I'm surprised that thing's still driving straight. We have Jonathan Orendorff taking P7. Kyle Cleveland giving a little bit of a congratulations bump on their cooldown lap.
Let's go, Robledo. Awesome job.
A great race by Robledo. Put a lot of practice in heading into this one, and it showed and paid off for sure. Definitely check out the Robledo's YouTube channel. You can see it on the back of their car, Robledo YT.
My foot was twitching last 3 laps because I couldn't believe it. The first lap, I messed up qualifying and decided to start at the back. Yeah, and everyone crashed in front of me, so I was able to just scoot on by everyone on the right side. There's a little gap. Nick Gould, he was pretty quick, but he would make a little mistake here and there, and I would just close up over time. I was annoyed with myself in qualifying, but yeah, I went from last to first after 2 laps. Oh no, last to second, but then eventually last to first.
Hello everybody, welcome to Thompson Speedway, race 4 of the BRC season and the second race of week number 2. This is the oval portion of our night, and it is a 30-lapper. Here's your grid lineup for race number 2. Nick Gould in their second race of the season, taking their first ever Potato Baton Pole Award here at the oval. Chris Essery once again up on that front row, qualifying second. Kyle Cleveland third overall in that second row with Mitchell Calvin. We have Robert Beard in the 4 and row number 3 along with Andrew Ewing. In the next row, David Robledo, the winner from that previous road course race, qualifying P7. Jonathan Orendorff joining him on the outside in 8th. And then bringing up the rear out of qualifying is Clayton Cyrus. And again, coming into this race after 3 and dropping 1, Cleveland and Essery out front with 49 apiece. Robledo moving up 1 point behind in 3rd after that win. And we are off and rolling at Thompson Park. Nick Gould leading us to the green flag. 31 attacking on the outside. Essery getting a nice run, and he's going to clear the 14. 4 trying to find their home back there in that 6th position. And the drivers are learning really quickly if it's the top lane or the bottom lane where you want to be. The 31 trying to leave no doubt here. After everything that's gone on, Essery trying to break away from the field. Please no one hit me is what they're thinking. And Cleveland moves up into 2nd. They've had some great restarts or starts in general throughout this season. Now running P2, Mitchell Calvin, who started their season just earlier in this road course. They didn't race week 1, looking very strong as well in that 78 so far. And the pole sitter, unfortunately for the 14, just trying to fit in front of that Andrew Ewing car. They tap bumpers. Luckily, no one goes around. But that could have been pretty dangerous. The 15 just did not leave enough room up there. for the 14 to get up there and held them off. So the 14 dropping like a rock. See if the 4 can get by them. It looks like now the 14 is going to have some space. Or maybe not as everyone goes around. We keep looking ahead. Now the 24 has moved into P2. The 78 losing it a little bit. The 15 having a checkup. Some exciting racing going on early in this one. So far, no cautions though. 14 really committing to that bottom lane. Orndorff has now moved up into the 7th position. And all the while, race 1 winner of tonight. Robledo back in 8th and Cyrus back in 9th. Just minding their own business, watching the aggressive racing going on ahead of them. So, Essery, again, trying to avoid trouble. They have a half-second lead ahead of the field. Cleveland running 2nd. Mitchell Calvin in that 78 car trying to work on the 24. Andrew Ewing trying to make up for that previous race as well. They know they have some pace. And the 4 car is going to lose it. They save it, but then they don't. Nope, the 4 car goes around. And with such a small field, doesn't look like they're going to get the yellow, but they get the car going again on heartbreaking spin out for the 4. They have not had a good season so far, and that was some of the best running position they've had running in the top 5 after a strong start here at Thompson. If they can make up for that mistake or get a lucky caution as we roll along. This race is absolutely moving. We're already 8 laps into this 30-lap event. Honestly, race management probably could have made this race just a little longer. I'm not sure what they were thinking here, as most of the BRC events are aiming to be in the 20 to 25 minute range, even when they just run laps. But regardless, Essery out front, looking strong, creating some separation still, just under a second ahead of 2nd. The 24 trying to hold off Ewing in that 15 machine. And Mitchell Calvin now back to 4th position. Ooh, the 15 rides up the track a little bit. They're going to lose a little bit of time to the 24, and now might have to fend off the 78. So we're starting to learn who has the pace this season, who doesn't. Some newcomers still joining us. Rumors of yet another driver to make their season debut next week. We'll see how many we have on the grid. Unfortunately, only 9 drivers this week round, as we had a few from opening weekend not able to attend. But hopefully that changes moving forward, and we can have double-digit grids most weeks. There's the 4 car again, just hoping for a caution. Maybe someone gets an itchy arm and spins around or something, where a yellow's going to come out. Orndorff in the 20 back there, back in 8th. There was Cyrus in the 05. Running 7th, there's Robledo in the 25. Running 6th overall. Pole sitter Nick Gould in that number 14 machine, the purple. Holding on to that top 5 still. Mitchell Calvin. E4. And Ewing in the 15 car. Really getting to the bumper of the 24 now. Trying to apply some pressure, see if they can get this done. Unfortunately, it looks like we're about midway through this race already. Only about 5.5 minutes in. So I'm not sure these tires are really going to get a chance for people who are protecting them to get a long run. As we saw some interesting line work here as the 15 gets a strong run off of that second turn, but they just could not carry enough momentum. The 24 doesn't open the door for them to get under. 15 is going to go high once again, see if they can get a nice run off this turn. And it doesn't look like that same effect's going to happen this time. 24 now going high. All the while, Essery's just loving this. As long as no one's bringing out a caution, they're keeping themselves at bay in terms of the gap to the leader, although Cleveland's now 0.7, 0.8 when they were just about under a second earlier, 0.9 in the 1 second range. It doesn't look like anyone's really threatening that lead at the moment. We are 2 wide for 3rd position or 4th position, excuse me, is Nick Gould trying to get past that 78. They go low. 78's going to get a nice run here on the outside to hold off Gould in the 14. We'll see if the 14 can get it done this time by. Definitely seems like the dominant lane is that upper lane. Makes it a little tougher to pass here. You got to wait for someone to make a mistake and then just, I don't want to say slide job it in at this point, but you just got to throw it in there at the right time for it all to match up and get that position when the door opens. Top 5 now, about even length apart, outside of the leader, that is. Robletto's up to that 6th position, little ways back, trying to make up some ground. Didn't have a great qualifying run. Got to put themselves in the hole early. And with such a short oval race, it's going to be tough to make up those positions. We're 20 laps in, about 10 laps left. And no yellows. I think we had 4 cautions in the opening oval race, which Essery won at the Charlotte Legends Oval. It was a good race. Had a long green flag run at the end. And pretty unfortunate that race manager didn't have enough foresight to make this one a little longer, really make the tires work. It's going to be a pretty quick race. We're getting towards the end of it here already. Only 7 laps to go as they come around the start-finish this time by. You see the in-car for the 11, or the in-car for the number 24, excuse me, of Cleveland, running P2. Trying their best to work on that leader. They are now 1.2 seconds back of Essery, who they're battling with for the points lead. And then we're in the 15 of Andrew Ewing in P3. Here's 4th place. That's Nick Gould. Trying to pressure the 15 now. Again, Gould taking the pole award, but just could not find a way into the racing line early in this race. Now they're working the bottom once again. Mitchell Calvin in that 5th position, starting to fall off a little bit pace-wise. 24 again pulling away from these two as they battle it out now. And all the while to 31. Loving what they're seeing. We're at lap 26 of 30 right now. And getting closer and closer to the end of this one. Get a good look at the field and the super fast drone shot out of 2nd place, the 24. Fastest lap of the night so far, Nick Gould, 22.793. Everybody else in the 22.8 range. And Gould still trying to get this position. Every point's mattering here. As again, the 14 of Gould and the 78 of Calvin not going to have the advantage of the drop weeks, getting rid of their worst race as they missed the opening weekend. So those are their drop races if they race the rest of the season. Trying to get full advantage of every point they can at this point. Like Cyrus up to that 6th position. Robletto trying to work their way to their bumper for a spot as well. And we are on the final lap as Essery is going to get yet another win, their second win of the season in the 31 machine. So Essery taking the win, Cleveland second, about 2 seconds back. Ewing in P3. Nick Gould finishing 4th overall. Mitchell Calvin in 5th. Cyrus in 6th. Robledo 7th. Orendorf 8th. And Bearder in the 4-car in 9th. In terms of the season standings, 50 points for Essery out front now. Again, 2 drop weeks already applied out of the 4 races. So this is everyone's 2 best races so far. Essery out front with 2 wins, so that's 50 points, 25 points each. Kyle Cleveland in 2nd with 49 points. Robledo in 3rd with 48. Ewing's now in 4th position with 46. And Gould, after 2 strong races here this week, in 5th position with 44.
Yeah, so that was a whole bunch, just a lot of luck. First luck started with getting outside pole, because pole hasn't won a race yet. And then second bit of luck was the practice. I ran like 15 laps, and I was like, you know what? I don't see a lot of wear, so I'm just going to go all out. And it was able to work out, because if I think it was a little bit longer, I would have started falling off pretty hard. So, yeah, I think it was a lucky Sunday drive.